Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting episode of Caught on the Mic. I am absolutely stoked to have these guys on the show today. They are not a new band, but maybe they are a new band to you. Joining me on the podcast is Charlie and Kevin Jordan Ries, the Ries Brothers. Man, if you have not checked them out yet, I am telling you, they have just released Summer 2025's perfect song. We're going to get into that. Guys, how you guys doing?
Doing great, man. I appreciate you having us. I appreciate that intro, too.
Oh, man. Thank you so much for doing the show. Like I said, you guys are not a new band per se, but you might be new to the general public. Mm-hmm. And I have taken a deep dive into your music lately, and I am just blown away. Like, I went on a 3-hour drive and I put like a Ries Brothers Spotify thing, one of those prepackaged things on. My wife and I were just loving every single song.
Oh, I appreciate that. Hell yes.
So let's talk a little bit about your guys' origin story. Charlie, you kind of started the project initially before your brother joined in, right?
Yes, before I was allowed to be in it.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about it.
So yeah, back in the day, Kevin was pretty serious about playing baseball, and he actually won the 11 and under Florida State Championship for AAU.
Yeah, no big deal.
He kind of thought that was the direction he was, going to try to pursue. While I was, falling in love with the drum kit at that time. I started on piano lessons when I was about 6. The story about that my mom tells me is, it was summer vacation. I was 6 years old, and she said, "You're not going to just sit around the house all summer. Do you want to do swimming lessons, tennis lessons, or piano lessons?" And she said that I picked piano because it was air conditioned. But anybody who knows the Florida summer, that makes sense,
Yeah.
So I see why I picked it back then, and I'm so glad that I did because it gave me that foundation. But it still kind of felt like, as a lot of kids, like, oh, I got to go take a piano lesson. I didn't love it yet. And then I think it was the drums that made me really fall in love with music. And particularly, I remember the Beatles were the first band that my dad got me a CD of. And particularly Ringo's drum solo on the end, I was like, that is cool. I'm like, I want to do that. Started playing drums, started backing up a few people around town as my first gigs. And then Kevin started picking up the guitar on that time.
Yeah, as soon as I stopped, playing baseball, I kind of fell in love with music and saw Jimi Hendrix play on a TV screen somewhere in the house.
Not live.
Yeah, not live.
I was going to say, man, you some kind of time traveler or what?
No, yeah, I know on a YouTube video. But as soon as I saw him, I was like, this is like, I want to be that. So I picked up the guitar, I got some lessons, and then he had a band before we were the Ries Brothers, and I was kind of just a fan. I went to the shows and just hung out, and then finally we started a band with a couple other guys that went to our school with us. But then we weren't, we're the only 2 people that were serious about making a career out of this. So let's just do it as a duo, and then that's when you came up with playing the bass and the drums and vocals at the same time.
Yeah, the idea came from the Beatles were my first big influence. The Doors were my second huge influence growing up.
Right.
And Ray Manzarek, because famously the Doors never had a bass player live. So Ray Manzarek played key bass with his left hand, organ with his right hand, that enabled him to have the full sound. And I was like, well, if they didn't have a bassist, what if we don't have a bassist? We can, there's a way we could do this. So I taught myself to play key bass while I play the drums. And then that enabled us to get a full sound for the live setup. And then a family friend of ours owned a seafood restaurant out on Indian Rocks Beach. Shout out to Krabby Bill's to giving us our first paid gig. And we started playing there. We were like the house band for like 2 years. This is like, I was a freshman in high school at this point. Kevin was like in 6th grade. Yeah, when we started playing there.
Wow.
And like for 3 years through high school, we were the house band. We played there once a week. That's how we learned how to play in front of a crowd, how we learned to write a set list, how we learned to work, do crowd work and all that came from that weekly gig there. And that's where we got discovered by someone who knew Chicago, and it kind of set us on our whole path there.
That's amazing. You know, I could barely let my brother play GI Joes with me, let alone play in a band with me.
I know, right?
Like how did that sibling rivalry dynamic play out over the years to where you guys are making such fantastic songs now that sound super collaborative?
I appreciate that. I think that music helped us get along, honestly.
Yeah, there's definitely moments where we were fighting, but as soon as we like picked up the instruments and are playing together, it kind of fades away and we're all on the same page. And that's what makes it so special. Like when we play live, we don't have to know what's coming next. We kind of like give each other the look, and we kind of know it's just from that brother thing. Like, all right, we're gonna extend the song. I know that look. Like,
Yeah,
Right.
just think it helped us like bond in that way. And when there would be an argument about a song, or in the writing process, or in the set planning process, there'd be an argument about something, and one of us would like storm out, and we'd be like, all right, well, you're still in the band, you got to come back at some point, so just take your time, but you're not going anywhere. Like, we knew we were in this together, so like,
Right.
after a few times of that, we realized, all right, fighting doesn't help anything. Let's figure out how to work together. And once we worked that out, that mutual respect, then it just like came natural beyond that. And so I think, I hear that from a lot of people. Like, I could never be in a band with my brother. I could never sit in a van with my brother for that long, or all this. And we've been lucky that we haven't had too much of that problem.
So far, so good. Let's see how the rest of that interview goes. See if we can.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, historically, it hasn't played out well in the long term. You think of guys like the Black Crows and Oasis, which have both come back together over time. But the art they created, I think, is also an end result of being brothers and having that collaborative energy, for sure. You mentioned that your first kind of big break was with Chicago. You want to walk us through how that happened?
Yeah, absolutely. So they were another band that we used to cover 25 or 6 to 4 in our early like bar days, and so we were big fans. And basically through our regular gig at Krabby Bill's, we developed like a local following that would come back and see us each week. And one of our locals came up to us after one of the shows and said, my friend is coming in town next week, and she actually works for Chicago, and I want to bring her to see you guys. Wow. And we were kind of like, there's, Florida's a wild place. So people all the time were like, yeah, I know this guy. And it, nothing ever came about, so we thought it was another one of those, honestly. But then sure enough, our regular came back with his friend, who turned out to be the accountant for Chicago since day one. And we were, after the gig, we got to meet her. It was awesome. And then our dad was pretty much managing us at the time, right, helping us out with everything. So she gives my dad a business card after the show, and it says Peter Schiaparelli, and it's got the Chicago logo on it. And we're like, well, this looks real.
Right.
Like, that's a lot of effort to make a fake card, if like, yeah. And she said, he's actually expecting your call. I've already told him about you guys. So my dad calls the manager of Chicago like the next day, and we're all thinking, this is crazy, this is wild. And basically he says, all right, I heard about the boys. I like what they do. I want you to send me a few things. And he wanted everything mailed. He didn't want anything emailed. He's like, send me a DVD of the guys playing, send me a CD of the songs, send me an EPK, electronic press kit.
Like old school.
Yeah.
Yeah. And luckily, like by that time, we did have DVD made.
So. Yeah, we actually had one that we shot at the Murray Theater in Clearwater. It was like our first ticketed show ever. And we had it filmed. So we had something ready to send, luckily. So we sent it off, and we didn't know if we'd ever hear from him again. It was about a month later, I think, that he called my dad, and it's like, all right, here's what I want to do. I want to put the guys on 2 shows. One's in Orlando, one's in Atlanta. And then if those go well, we can go from there. And we were like, hell yeah. Like,
right.
As let me call my teacher.
Yeah.
Can't make it in the school now.
So we found out that they liked us because we didn't have many originals back then, but they loved that we played classic rock covers. We were a great warm up for the crowd. We were young and we were only a duo, and they liked that we were easy on, easy off the stage. Because obviously Chicago doesn't need help selling tickets, so they don't need an act that's going to, because we were completely unknown. They liked us because we could, pretty much warm up the crowd for them. And the Orlando show was the Hard Rock Live, and it was just, at Universal. So we, as kids, we got to take a tour of that venue, and then never knowing within like 10 years of that we'd get to play that stage. And that was our first chance to open for them. The second show was in Atlanta at the Chastain Park Amphitheater. It was Ries Brothers, then REO Speedwagon, and then Chicago was the bill. And I learned one of the most valuable lessons I've ever learned at that show. Chicago's stage manager came over to me and said, okay, you guys have 15 minutes set time. If you guys play 16 minutes, you'll never play with us again.
Wow.
And I was like 19. Kevin's like 15.
Yeah.
And like to hear that right away after coming just from the bar circuit where everything's loose, and then chill, we were like, oh, okay. All right. This is a new world. Like, and if we want to be in it, we got to learn fast, and kind of that's what we did. I think I ended a minute early that night just to be safe,
Right. I'm sure you get put in that predicament and you're just kind of like, okay, it's better to be overly safe than sorry. Kind of a funny anecdote is I have an 18-year-old daughter, and she just recently started playing in bands, and they had a show at a local event here in Nebraska, and they had hit their hour mark. They were given an hour period of time. Well, I looked at the set list, and if they hadn't cut it right then, they had like 6 songs left. And I'm like, oh, you guys aren't timing your practices or your rehearsals, are you, at all?
That's wild. That's tough. It's something that it's there's no way to learn that except for those experiences.
Right, exactly. It's just kind of getting thrown into the abyss and saying, okay, survive.
Exactly. And then you learn to cut your middle songs, not your end songs.
Exactly.
You're like, our 6 best songs we didn't play.
Right, exactly, because you learn dynamics through that. I was going to ask you how old you guys were when that Chicago experience happened. You guys were still teenagers, essentially, when all that went down. What kind of lessons do you feel that you guys have learned individually, getting such big opportunities and big experiences at such a young portion of your lives and your career?
I think for me, the biggest one was professionalism, and just how to carry yourself in an environment like that. Just like seeing how they ran their show, seeing how like just getting to see what they do every night, no matter whether it was 1,000 people or 5,000 people or 800 people or 6,000 people, because the shows varied in venue size. Just seeing that they put on the same exact show, no matter how many people were there, they showed the same joy in what they did, no matter what. And
I mean, the music industry is like, it's just a big gossip fest. So like, if you're not, you have to be just super professional, easy to work with, because that stuff will spread to, all these touring bands coming in saying, oh, Ries Brothers, they were great to work with. So like, you just want to be respectful. Yeah, or the
Ries Brothers. Ries Brothers opened for us. They went 20 minutes over.
Yeah.
So do not have them out on tour, guys. Like, that shit gets around fast.
It does.
Just to be consistent in everything you do, and treat every show like it's like you're playing the same. Effort, and no matter if there's 5 people there or 5,000, like you gotta stay energy.
Huge advice we give to brand new bands is like, know your worth, but also be easy to work with. Like, don't let everyone step all over you, but also know your place and know that you're still new, and show some show respect for bands who have done this and been there before you. And because we've seen openers come in, even opening for us, and just go way over their time, go into the green room, bring all their friends, take all the food and drinks that are in there. Like, there's little things.
fully breaking down a 50-piece drum kit on stage.
If they open or use this kit, like, and then they completely use all their other stuff, all their own stuff, and then
someone asked me to use, the kid who was opening for us, and normally I'm fine with that. They just use their cymbals and snare because it helps us with changeover. But they didn't tell me they were completely shifting into a lefty kit. They never told me. And then they left it that way.
yeah,
So we're going up there with
like, here you go,
with 15 minutes until our set. It's like, here you go.
Yeah, you almost have to re-sound check everything again because of the repositioning of everything.
It's like, why did we do a whole sound check before? If we're
I would just like to know that it was kind of,
Well, I assume that your reputation of professionalism that you spoke about is kind of what led to a number of the collaborations that you guys have had in your short but extensive career. You guys have collaborated with people as far as Iration, and most recently with our mutual friend Nick from 311. Like, tell me about how some of those collaborations came about for you guys.
So most of them came through touring experiences, and I think that's the way we got to know these people and got to work closely with them and became friendly with them. I think our first national tour was G Love the Special Sauce.
Right.
Our first full national tour, that was 2018, and from then we got to start jamming with G, and we did 2 other tours with him where it was just him solo. And what was really cool about it is we did our opening set, and then G-Love played his solo set, and then we did a half-hour encore set where we became his backing band.
Oh, that's dope.
Kevin and I backing up G-Love on Cold Beverage and his biggest hits. We were loving that aspect of the jam session with him. So from then on, we got to do a song with him, and that's kind of how that came about. Same thing with Iration. It was after a tour we did with them and got to know him. We got to jam with them on stage, and that just carried over into doing a song with him. And pretty much, yeah. So that's translating a live jam session to the recording is how most of this came about.
That's dope. One thing that I've observed, and just not with you guys, but with a lot of new bands coming into prominence recently, is that there are not those barrier lines of genre like there used to be. I remember when I was younger and I was in my early 20s, punk rock guys were punk rock guys, metal guys were metal guys, ska guys were ska guys, so on and so on and so on. But it was never the musician's mindset. It was usually the fan bases that drove that. Do you guys feel that with how prominent social media and streaming has become, that maybe listeners and fans of music are just removing those barriers and allowing for you guys to be a little bit more artistic in blending sounds and styles?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think that's
I think especially when you go to Spotify now, you see a lot of moods instead of genres. You see happy, energetic. It's not just rock, blues, reggae. So there's I don't know. You can feel it's a lot easier nowadays to be a multi-genre blending band than it maybe would be 10 years ago.
Yeah, I remember hearing 10 years ago people telling us that we had to pick a lane, and we had producers trying to turn us into a Disney type pop band, or we had people saying, here, you have to stick with this, stick with that. And the bands that we loved didn't adhere to one set of rules there. We loved 311 is a great example.
Yes.
What genre is 311? They're 311. That's what they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And Nick and I talked about that just a few weeks ago when I had him on the pod. We talked a lot about the Clash, because the Clash was very eclectic in that sense, where they could make a funk record, a hip hop record in the early days of hip hop, but punk and country, and dabble in a little bit of everything. And people just didn't think anything of it in their time. That was just completely unheard of. But I do think Nick and the 311 guys did help usher a lot of that into the mainstream audiences that are listening to music today and consuming music today.
They opened a lot of doors for bands like us that don't necessarily fit into a perfect box there,
Well, now I'm going to contradict myself after I said, "Oh, genre lines don't matter." If somebody was new to the Ries Brothers, how would you describe your sound?
We like to go under the umbrella of we're a rock and roll duo, and then beyond that, our influences come from blues, jam music, and reggae, kind of. Um, but there's still more. There's alternative in there. There's a little, there's a little funk in there. Like I guess kind of that's what we say. Like we're huge fans of Black Keys and White Stripes, and being a fellow duo.
Yeah.
I always loved how, I was a huge fan of watching like old late night sets, like Black Keys on Letterman, stuff like that. And he would always, the way Letterman would always introduce them. My next guests are a rock and roll duo from Akron, Ohio, and I'm like, that's cool. I just love rock and roll duo. So we go under the umbrella of that, but live we become a reggae band some songs, we become a jam band some songs.
That's kind of what like Slightly Stupid does. They do a lot of a lot of reggae, but also some blues stuff, and like all their band members are just incredible musicians. They can bust into like a punk rock, jam. They can do alternative stuff. So it's like, are they really just a reggae band? I don't think so.
Right, and they were an influence in the early days as well. Still are, because they defy the genres like that.
Yes. So I think a good example for people to kind of digest of the Ries Brothers are your three most recent singles, Coming Out Swinging, Destination Unknown, and Golden Sun. Holy crap, man. I was sitting in your live stream last week whenever you guys did your listening party. And what's funny is I was bouncing back and forth between the live stream and Spotify. So I was listening to the song in real time and then going to the live stream, watching you guys kind of talk about it a little bit, going back and listening to it again. And I don't need to shine ass or, bullshit anybody here. For real, Golden Sun is the soundtrack of summer 2025.
Yeah, thank you.
Dude, okay. So I'm gonna kind of expand upon what I was telling you earlier. My wife is the pickiest ass music consumer of any person I know. She wants to listen to 80s stuff, 90s stuff, and then maybe some modern country. So for her to bring her into my lane and my style of music, it's got to be really good.
Oh,
So I brought her over to you guys and she loved it, man.
he's awesome.
So we took this road trip down to Kansas City. We're in Lincoln, Nebraska. And I'm like, we're going to listen to Ries Brothers. And we had to pull over for gas or something. And we were right in the middle of listening to Golden Sun. We go into the gas station. We come back out. I start the song over and she goes, "You really had to listen to it from the beginning." And I go, "Yeah, I was fucking interrupted." So
I love that.
So seriously, anybody that's listening or watching this, I know I just rambled on a whole lot of word vomit, but go check out those three songs. Let's talk about these three songs and kind of what's to come for you guys. These three songs are going to be on an upcoming album, correct?
That's right. And I appreciate you saying that they, kind of define the sound well, because I agree with you. I think that's, where the sound has evolved to can be, summed up in those three in a lot of ways. Coming Out Swinging was the first single of the year, and it's also the first song that we wrote with Nick also.
Nice.
We had the basic, and that one is our blues rock side. We took our influences there, combined them with our love of baseball, and Kevin came up with the title there.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't have a chorus, and we knew what we wanted to say in the chorus, but it was kind of stuck, and we had just started writing with Nick, and we were like, "Hey, can we send you one of our ideas and see what you think?" And he's like, "Yeah, of course." He comes back that night with, "Oh, if you're ready or not." I'm like, "That's it."
Yeah.
Like right away. Like, God damn, like that was quick.
Dude, I tell you what's funny was when I listen to that song, I'm like, oh shit, the Black Keys are going to have to hand the baton for the badass truck commercial song to the Ries Brothers. Like, I hear that in commercials, like at some point in time,
Yeah,
I would love that.
we're trying to get it to Major League Baseball too. Like I feel like
Right.
for commercials and stuff and ads, like it's like the perfect song.
Is the commissioners watching? Yeah, we got the track ready.
What's up, Rob?
Give me your email. I'll send it over.
So let's move on to Destination Unknown. How did that song come about? Because honestly, that one, like, again, kind of tying it to personal experience. I have, this is a weird thing. I talk about it, I swear, on every podcast episode, but I have 3 daughters that graduated high school this year. I have twin stepdaughters and my daughter. And it's funny. I discovered Destination Unknown, like literally right as we were starting to get into graduation season. And so it's something that's kind of emotionally tied with graduation season for me. So tell me about how that song came about for you guys.
So to work with Nick, we also started working with this incredible songwriter, producer, engineer named Jared Masters out of Oregon. And he's a friend of Nick's, and he put us together, and he started writing that song like 10 years ago. And it was just kind of sitting on it. And we started going through,
I sent us like a rough demo of it and just the start of it, and we're like, okay, this is like super cool. Like I feel like Charlie's voice would be perfect for this, and it's kind of like a little bit of a new alley for us to go down.
Right.
But we, just lyrically, we loved it too.
Yeah, 'cause our parents had just bought a farm up here. We're actually there right now in Brooksville, Florida, about an hour north of Tampa, and they have cows. And one of the lines is like, "Them boys will catch the cows." I'm like, this is like surreal. Like they just came up here to the farm. This new songwriting partnerships happening, and they just sent us this song, and it's got all this vivid imagery, and we were like, let's develop this one, because they sent us a few, and I'm like, this one in particular, there's something special here for sure. We saw that right away. Yeah. And then we started going back and forth on how to craft it to our style, and we'll rework the lyrics a little bit, and then we went up to Nashville and met Jared there and knocked it out. And then within a few weeks, it was already getting into a movie, that movie Plight, that we got to go out to LA in April, right as the song dropped. The premiere was the same night. And what's very cool about this movie is it's the first movie with an all autistic leading cast, and which is the first of its kind. And it was such an honor to be part of that, and to go out and to see the movie and to see that song on the big screen through the speakers. We got to play the song before the premiere, and then just to be a part of it, and to hear the song like I said, through those speakers on that screen was surreal for us. And they're still working on the distribution, so hopefully that movie is widely available very, very soon.
That's amazing. And now with the grand finale of the 3, let's talk about Golden Sun. This kind of learning through your live stream, this kind of came through a writer's block session, right? And Kevin Jordan, you were kind of like, you were the architect of this idea originally, right? Like let's tell everybody how that came to be.
Yeah, so like I think it's funny because when you look at bands that collab with other artists, that might not be the first idea that those 2 artists have had to develop a song together. So most times, like with Iration, even we had a couple of different songs before we got to the final product, and that's the same thing with the song with Golden Sun. We tried a few different songs with Nick, and it wasn't until we collabed on the Golden Sun structure that we were like, okay, this is the one. Like we're all feeling it. We were working at the farm, and it was just one of those days I couldn't come up with anything, and it was like I was like doubting myself. I was doubting my guitar playing, just everything just not good. And then I was like, all right, I'm gonna get into a different mind space. I'm gonna have Charlie go out of the room, go for a walk. I'm just gonna play whatever comes to mind, and like fall back in love with music. And then I started playing that riff, and I was like, all right, like we finally got something here.
I think you texted me,
send a little
10-second audio clip of just the riff, the opening riff, and I just like ran back home.
Yeah,
I'm like, that's something already. I hear it. Like I'm like, there's certain things like right away, whether it's gonna be a song, or like if you hear something, you're like, that's cool. It could develop into something like you probably aren't gonna, but if you want to be excited from the get go, and
Yeah.
with that riff, I was.
Yeah. And when do you think we started working on that? It was like January, February, right?
Probably, yeah. So we didn't know that Nick was gonna be a part of it for a couple months.
Yeah.
We just thought it was a really cool song that we really wanted to make the record. We wanted it to be on the album.
I think we just sent it to Nick like, hey, here's something we've been working on. Let me know if you like this. And then he immediately said, all right, this I love. Like, I already hear some of my verse in this. Like, I'm gonna start getting to work on this. I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah,
we found the song.
What was that first time when you heard the finished product and you hear Nick's voice collaborating with you guys, especially, I mean, yeah, we haven't even gotten in the weeds about how you came to work with Nick Hexum, which we'll probably talk about here in a minute, but being 311 fans yourselves, like, what was that experience like listening to that final product for the first time?
Like, I don't think I still can get over the whole thing that we're even working with them. Is incredible. And
for me, it was just like a reminder that, all right, we're on the right track. We're doing good, because a lot of times as a musician, you doubt yourself and your career, where you're at, and listening to Golden Sun, it's like, all right, like, this is a great, like, mission accomplished right now. We're still, we still have many more goals to reach, but like, celebrate this, because this is very special for sure.
Dude, it's a moment of reassurance, and I think anybody that's creative in any way, shape, or form needs that in order to move themselves forward. Ironically, I think we share a kinship in that fact. Like, just having Nick on the podcast just recently, as a longtime 311 fan myself, like, I literally moved cities because I was such a huge 311 fan when I was playing in bands. So it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, you know what, when you get the nod, like, it's life changing, and it's unbelievable, and you can't put it into words, can you?
No, it's not like,
but in the song,
when he sent that first voice memo of his verse, and we were just like, this is wild. Like, he's singing on our song right now. This is insane.
Right.
I got to tell on this story recently that in high school, I took a music theory class, and every Friday the teacher would let us play a song off our iPod and talk about it, just say what we were listening to at the time, kind of share our musical taste. And I played Don't Tread on Me one time, and I remember just feeling like the most badass person in that class, just playing 311 in there. And then, like, you never know that your career can be long enough that you can actually, like, work with that person. That's crazy.
Yeah. So how did the overall collaboration with Nick Hexum and your involvement with SKP come about?
So it has its roots in the 311 community, obviously the 311 crews in particular.
Right.
We just played in March, and that was our third time. The first time has a wild story. It was 2019. 2019. The cruise is leaving out of Tampa, and we were playing at the pre-party when their management said, basically, I think it was either a comedian or a DJ. Someone dropped out, and there was an extra room. And after seeing the set at the pre-party, they were like, do you guys want to come on the boat tomorrow? We have an extra room. Like, we dig the vibe. And we were like, yeah. Luckily, it left out of Tampa. We were like 20 minutes from our house. Like,
right.
We're like, we just got to go home and grab the thing, and we'll see you in the morning. Like, but then we remembered, we're like, oh shit, we have a show in Brooklyn next week, like, already booked. During the cruise, it was like that Saturday. The cruise was like Wednesday to Sunday. Shows in Brooklyn. Saturday was to open for Jojo Herman of Widespread Panic. Oh, wow. And we also had an agent coming to check us out. It was like an audition. So we're like, there's no way we can cancel that, but there's also no way we could say no to a 311 cruise, because we had known it changed the lives of so many bands before us. Just getting on the boat opens, because 3,000 hardcore music fans from all over the world that you're exposed to. So we're like, there's no way we can say no. So we get on the phone with our manager. Shout out to David. He He had just taken his Ambien, going to sleep. Like, and then I'm like, David, I might want to put on some coffee because we have to figure out how to get off the 311 cruise early and then fly to New York. And we figured out we got 3 sets on the boat, and they were able to put us our sets the first 3 days. So we got to do the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, then get off the boat early Saturday morning in Costa Maya, Mexico, and the closest airport was like direct to JFK. I think was
Cancun.
I think it was Cancun. We had to take a 4-hour taxi ride. They shout out to the 6th man who runs the 311 cruise. They were able to figure this all out for us. We took a 4-hour cab ride through Mexico,
through cartel country, ladies and gentlemen.
That's what we were getting off the boat. They told us, they're like, because customs had to come on and like help us check us out of the,
right.
And they said, we've got GPS on the taxi. Like they all have them. He's like, if they take a turn that we don't like, we'll know about it. And I'm like, yeah, but it'll be too late, right? Yeah. Like you'll know about it. That's great, but
jeez.
But I'm so lucky that we were so young and just like anything goes. We were just so happy to be out there doing it. Because now we'd be like, maybe it's not the best idea, but then we're like, yeah, fine. Like whatever it takes. Yeah, of course. Nothing crazy about that at all. And then we made it happen. So we did the cruise, took the ride, flew to New York, and then played the show. And that was our first taste of the 311 community. It was incredible. After that, we got to open for them 2 years later, or no, the next cruise didn't happen because of COVID. But after that, we got to do our second cruise in 23, and we got to open for them in at the Culture Room, Fort Lauderdale. And so we kind of like were in their sphere. We hadn't really met them yet,
right?
But on that second boat, we got to meet Nikki. And for those out there who don't know, Nikki Hexum runs SKP Records. She's incredible to work with. That's how we first got our introduction with her. And that's when they were just starting to say, this is like 2023, they were starting to put the word out like that this label was kind of forming, and that it was a label based around giving the artist as much power as possible, which is huge, especially as an independent band. And then it took another 2 years of us keep grinding things out, and to come back on the radar there with this cruise that just happened. And basically from that meeting with Nikki, though, like things started to roll, and then our manager David Parnes was a huge part of putting all this together, and he started working with the label as well. And then they decided to start bringing on bands, and we were one of the first ones they brought on, and it's been an absolutely incredible experience.
Oh, I love that, man. I love whenever you can forge your own path and form your own destination. I've really enjoyed learning about you guys in depth. This has been exciting. Let's just kind of take a moment and let's talk about where you see things for the band 2 years from now and 5 years from now.
Oh, interesting. You want to start?
Oh, yeah. I'd say like a good goal of ours would be in 2 years being able to headline across the country and sell 500 to 1,000 tickets at every city we go to. That would be a really cool goal while still releasing an album a year for every 2 years. I'd say just be able to keep touring constantly. We're ready to do like 300 shows a year, like at this point, as much as we can. But yeah, just to be able to no matter where we go across the country, to be able to sell a good amount of tickets is
that's always been the goal, is to set up where you can control your own schedule, because as an up-and-coming band, you really don't have control over your schedule too much. Like you take offers when they come, and
right.
if like the cruise, we got asked the day before it left, like and we've gotten month-long tour offers like the week before they left. Like you have to be ready to drop everything at a moment's notice. But the goal has been set this up so we can start to set our own schedule and as a headliner, um, and just play. Our goal since day one is to build the fan base organically, have a group that comes along with us on the journey. We had opportunities when we were younger to do like the America's Got Talent stuff, and that it just we kind of saw what that would have turned into. We knew 10 years time we didn't want to be, the Ries Brothers are playing. Oh yeah, remember them? They were that kids band on America's Got Talent.
Right.
Like, just, it just puts a stain on you that we didn't want. We wanted to, even if we knew it would take longer. We knew if we went on those type shows, immediately we'd see the spike in likes and follows, all that. But then it would fade out, and we wanted to.
It's like at the top of your head, you can't name who came in second place in The Voice 3 years ago.
Right.
Like who won?
Yeah.
Realistically now, yeah. There's so many of them. You it's not like it used to be.
Yeah. So we just wanted to build this thing organically, and over time, just keep bringing more people, more fans into this, and to have a long career that is, timeless. Like, like Slightly Stupid's on their 30th year or something of touring, and they know constantly, like every year, they're gonna be able to sell out amphitheaters. It's just probably for the rest of their lives they're gonna be doing that. So, because they built it over the years, they tour constantly every single year and built that fan base. So that's kind of our goal as well.
Dude, I love that because I think that's another area where we share a kinship for sure. I think it's necessary if you have a creative endeavor that you want people to invest in, you have to equally invest in those people. And that is a result of building a culture around the thing that you care about. And what you guys are talking about is building a culture. That's why, going back to the 311 thing, that's why 311's fan base is so fanatical, is because they've built a whole culture around their fan base. That's why they're able to have a cruise. And it sounds like you guys are kind of modeling a similar blueprint. It's a blueprint that I use for my show too. It's not a have a guest on and it's a one and done thing. If you've given me your time, you've given me the greatest gift in the world, because you'll never get that time back. So now we are in each other's stratosphere. Like,
I feel that. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I mean, I totally am on board with what you guys are saying as far as building your career organically.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah. That's really didn't see another way to do it, honestly. Just felt it's what we thought was right. And yeah, in particular, 311 has been a huge influence on that. The most incredible fan base in the world, and what they're able to do year after year on the the vibe they bring, the fans and the band. Like, it's something that it's a family. It's like that's what we want. Like, not like you have people come to see you once and then they might not come back the next year. And then, or if you have you could be the number one song in the country in 3 years, people might not come back to see you because you didn't follow it up, and you didn't follow up with your base, and you didn't build a base from that. Like, and so like what they've been able to do has been incredible. And like you said, we've been modeling pretty much after that.
I love that. So since we've talked about culture and we've talked about developing a fan base and doing the right thing and like having these good, like sensible morals around building a fan base, I'm going to ask you my most off the wall question that I ask every single guest as my closing question for the podcast. And everybody's answer is unique. So my question is, guys, one at a time, what's your advice for making the world a better place tomorrow than what it is today through your experiences?
That's a great question. I'd say a big one is having patience and understanding, and trying to put yourself in another person's shoes and not judging too quickly. That's a big one. Just kind of feel it out, and try to get in someone's shoes and what they're going through, and just how you can be the best friend to them you can be, and be supportive, because everyone's, no matter how big you are, how famous you are, everyone's still human. So you got to be, I think everyone's on the same level, so we can all help each other out that way.
Yeah,
For sure.
that's great. I'd say, be self-aware, be easy to be around. Empathy is a huge one. Like, we're all more alike than we think, and that's portrayed to us, and it's just, yeah, being able to, like, not develop enemies, and to forgive easier, and understanding and self-awareness are big. And I think um having a calm demeanor too really helps to evaluate things, not let your temper take over. You can people fight, not speak for 10 years over an argument they don't even remember.
Right.
Take a step back, breathe, evaluate situations, be rational, think, use critical thinking, stay healthy. Health is the biggest thing, and we're trying to be big advocates of that. Health through basically through food, and like it can be a big thing that gets in the way of your mental health is diet, and we're trying to raise awareness of that through how we live and how we can try to help people that way. And shout out to our mom, she's incredible. She up here at the farm, she makes kombucha and kefir. She teaches classes on how to do that. And the thing that people take for granted is health and mental health. And if you have those two things, you're able to be a much better person in the world. And so sometimes when people aren't super friendly, I try to think there might be something else going on there, and
Yes.
that's where the understanding comes back into it. And so that's pretty much, I'm rambling a little bit.
No, man, that's so perfect. It's funny. I made this reel yesterday, drawing attention to the fact that June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month.
I didn't actually know that.
Yes. And, not to go dark and dreary or anything, but the statistics show that men have a 3 times higher suicide rate than women. And it's a lot of the times it's because men hold in their emotions. They're not afraid to communicate, or they are afraid to communicate. They are afraid to open up. And, I'm a big advocate of, men's mental and physical health. And so I was just sitting there agreeing and nodding with everything that you were saying. But, kind of going to both of your points, one of my favorite lines to tell people is, you are an individual, but so is everybody else. And if you understand that, it makes getting along and breaking those barriers down so much easier.
Yeah, exactly. I love that.
Absolutely.
So why don't you guys tell my audience where they can find you and your music online?
Yeah, we're on all social media at Ries Brothers, RIES. On Spotify, you can check us out. YouTube, Apple Music. Make sure you guys stream the new single "Golden Sun" with Nick Hexum. We have a lyric video for that on our YouTube page as well. Check that out. Much love. Thanks for having us on.
Dude, I tell you what, I am so hoping that we get to run into each other in the real world here sometime in the near future. I cannot wait for the album. No firm release date yet, but late summer, early fall is kind of what you guys are thinking, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Charlie, Kevin, Jordan, the world is a much better place with you in it. Thank you for doing the show today.
Hey man, this is so much fun. I appreciate talking to you.